Hey there, Desi and Lisa. We're back for another episode, and today we're going to be talking about shifting perspective when life doesn't go your way. So, what if everything going wrong isn't actually the problem? What if it's the meaning you are immediately giving it that is?
Mm,
The exact same situations can feel completely different depending on where you are emotionally, physically, hormonally, and energetically. So today we're going to be diving into all of this and how we can really transform it for our highest good and for our highest timeline. So instead of us like making everything have meaning or something really bad's happening, actually being like, oh, wait a minute, it's okay that we're here.
hmm Yes, this is a really good one, and we could probably talk on and on about this one because there's
Right?
so many examples in life, and we tend to just attach so much meaning and outcome and expectation on every single thing in our life. So, exactly that is what we're going to get into first, is because whatever is happening in your life, personally, again, mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever that is for you, what are you saying about it in your mind? And when something doesn't go our way, so when we meet, we deem it as bad or good. When we
Mm,
remain neutral in what's happening in our life, it does also help because the quote unquote bad allows us to spiral in a way that makes things bigger than they are. So when you have somebody respond to you in a certain way or a certain tone, we tend to be like, "Oh, that wasn't good," or like, "Man, they don't like me." So like, and we automatically assign this whole story based on our own experiences and past that we're like, just because they said a
mm,
certain tone that they hate us and they are mad
mm,
at us and we're the worst people ever. We can literally go as far as that and as deep as that. But there's other ways to reframe that and to help yourself step back from what this story is and actually change it, because when you change the meaning, that changes everything in your life because you're
mm,
allowed to shift the energy. And when you're able to approach the person or the situation in that different energy, it can change a lot more. It can definitely become something different. So, for example, personally, I am doing this launch for my program called Instant Shift. And Instant Shift has is like my baby. And it is
mm.
something that I am really proud of. I'm really excited about. And I had 7 women go through this first round and it was
Yay!
amazing. And I had so much fun creating it and everyone's loving it. I'm getting great feedback. And, I could say that it's not working by the end because some of the people fall off because life happens and they get sick and life things happen where they're not able to put the energy into the program. And as much as I know they want to be there, you know, I can make that mean they hate it.
Mm,
The practices don't work for them. So, I could make this mean something about me and I'm a terrible coach and I'm a terrible guide and I made this thing
mm,
and it's terrible. And when I think that way, this next round that I'm creating and this next round that I'm having starting August 31st, I could take that meaning and take that understanding because that's what I'm applying to it now. And I could be like, no one's going to show up. No one's going to buy it. No one's
mm,
going to come into my group that I'm so excited about. And it's going to be crickets. It's going to be terrible. And if I keep replaying this thought and replaying this story in my mind that doesn't even actually happen, it doesn't actually physically happen right now. Nothing actually is proving me correct with that. I'm just
mm,
creating this story about it. So when someone says no, when someone says, not
mm.
right now or whatever that is, we can immediately say, well, we're terrible and we're ugly and we're not perfect
No
and,
one loves me.
no one loves
Not
me.
good enough.
And yeah, exactly. Like how many things do you say to yourself when you feel like you were quote unquote rejected, when someone doesn't answer you right away, when someone says no, when someone doesn't respond, you can immediately say, they're upset with me. What did I do? And like you're spiraling into like, there's got to
Mm,
be something. There's got to be something that happened that caused them to feel this way. And a lot of times it's not that way.
mm,
And when you're able to have the uncomfortable conversation about it afterwards, you can repair friendships, you can repair all these situations, of course, but it could even happen when plans change, right? Like
mm,
again, like how many times have plans changed with your friends? I know a couple of my friends that I love, they're like soul sisters to me, and we
Mm,
support each other so much. And of course, life happens, and we just haven't, we keep planning like a date to hang out, and just like
yeah.
every time it happens, something happens. Like just, we just don't end up hanging out. And it's like one person can't do it, and then the other person can't do it. And then it's just like, life is lifing. And unfortunately,
Mhm.
as an adult, friendships are a little tougher sometimes because everyone has their own lives and whatever, and we evolve, but we still have to show up, in a way that is compassionate toward each other and empathetic. So again, another thing, that can happen is if you don't receive a promotion, or if you don't if you feel like you should achieve something already. Maybe that is weight loss. Maybe that is something like a business, like me and Desi are doing. Maybe that is something that you're trying to do in your studies, in school, in a job, a certification, and you're feeling like things are just taking forever and you're behind, and you're looking at socially on social media and comparing yourself, and you're like, I should be further. I should have this much money in my bank account. I should be
Mhm.
further, and I should be successful. And we just create so much meaning about
Mm,
what happens. And most of the time, it doesn't actually happen. Or again, something we deem is bad. And that's what we create this story and this thing that happens. So whenever you get that no, whenever you get this person not responding to you, whenever plans change, when something is taking longer, when you don't get that promotion or you don't get that money that you were expecting, I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. Number one, what actually happened? What is the truth here? Like, take the emotion a little bit out of it and just ask yourself, did this actually happen, or what actually happened? And then the second question would be, what am I making it mean? What is that story that you are creating about this situation? And the last question is, do I actually know that it is true? So, this meaning, the story, do you know if this is actually true? Can you actually see it happen? And usually it didn't actually happen. So, we're literally creating something in our mind, and we're literally putting energy toward that. So, when we put it towards that expectation, that is when it might actually happen. So, we want to remove that energy once we realize that we are putting this story to it.
mm,
So, something happening and the meaning that you give it are two different things.
mhm.
So, allow yourself to redirect your emotion, redirect your energy to a different meaning. And Desi, I don't know if you have any other examples that you want to share as we're talking about this, but I know this next part that we're going to get into is going to be makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah, and perspective is everything because we can be having the same experience, but
Yeah,
because we have had different experiences in our life, we had different upbringings, different parents, different teachers, different,
true.
experiences, traumas and stuff, we perceive that experience 100% different, right? We can be having the same exact thing happen, yet we perceive it 100% different because we are different people. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, of course, there's going to be similarities. Like me and my husband are probably going to look at things similar because we hang out a lot together and my best friends, right? So there are
Yeah.
be similarities, but at the end of the day, like our perspective really is through the lens of what we have experienced in life.
Yeah.
And if you're a woman, this changes throughout our whole cycle. And I know this got really loud for me yesterday. I was like 10 days away from my cycle, like kind of coming into that like luteal phase. And I
Hmm.
can tell I didn't sleep that good, which I don't sleep that well, especially before my cycle. I'm tossing and turning, and it's
Mm.
a whole thing. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting close to my cycle, and I woke up grumpy that morning a little, and actually, well, not even grumpy, just more tired. And
Yeah.
then the noise got so loud. It was
Uh,
like, you're failing, you're not making enough money, you're not going to be able to pay your bills, da da da, like all, like it isn't
mm.
working, like all of it, like you're talking about, like it just got so loud. And I was like,
Yeah.
I just started observing, like, okay, all right, it's like I'm getting up to do my morning routine, like the day hasn't even started, like there's nothing that
Yeah.
triggered this, like where is this coming from? And then I was like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, I didn't sleep good. I have a sleep number bed, and it was like all night. You can see I was moving. Like I said, I
Oh,
was I
wow.
was tossing and turning for like over an hour and a half that night. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm curious now. Okay, when is my cycle coming? Oh, okay. So like I was able to really bring it back to like, okay, my hormones are dipping. Like I'm starting to feel a certain type of way, and these thoughts
Hmm.
are getting really loud, and I'm
Yeah.
feeling really vulnerable to them, and they're actually feeling like more in control than of my the thoughts were feeling more in control than myself having the quote unquote control over what I was experiencing, right? And so
Mhm.
where are you in your cycle when you're feeling that perspective? Like they didn't text back and like we make it all about ourselves when like literally they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. My daughter did it, and they like go into this whole story of something that happened.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, it had nothing to do with me, right? So like
Yeah.
when we start making things about ourselves and like that is so important for us to be like, okay, is this actually true, right? And so when we're in our luteal phase, when we're irritable and we have mood changes, we're fatigued, we're hungry, but like we don't want to eat, and then we have like sleep changes and like there's more sensitivity happening, like paying attention to what your perspective is saying in the luteal phase. And then
Mhm.
what's really cool is coming back to like your truth, right? So
Yeah.
if you know how you feel, like in your follicular stage where your energy, your mood is like good and like it's rising, it's getting better, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm finally got my bleed. And like,
Yeah.
it's like cool, like things are starting to shift, right? And like, what is the truth in those moments, right? When you're in the ovulation where you're experiencing like higher energy, like you're more sociable, you want
Mhm.
to go out, like
Mhm.
what are your truths then? Because I know I wasn't having those thoughts like a week ago. Like I wasn't like in my head thinking like the world is ending and the sky is falling
Yeah.
like a week ago, right? And so I was
Mhm.
able to be like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. And so really knowing where you are, right? Like if you're on your menstruation, like try not even to do anything, especially
Yeah.
sometimes when we want to try to be more productive in these like periods where we're like in our luteal phase and we're PMSing or we're bleeding. It's like easy just for everything is a lot harder, right? It's like
Yeah.
easier to get into those thought patterns and get into the fear and like your partner's annoying you and like you already have
Mhm.
like low patience for that, right? You're like last night I was like, how many more times are you gonna scrape your bowl of yogurt over there, right? And I'm like laughing in my head and I'm just like listening to it. It's like literally
Mhm.
something he probably does every single night, right? And
Yeah.
like here's my perspective shift. It's a really annoying me. And I was just like waiting and waiting. And I was like kind of laughing, even though it was still annoying me. And then I like made a joke and like we are joking about it, right? But
Yeah.
like sometimes it is not a joke. And I'm like, what are you doing? Right. And
Yeah.
so our energy changes throughout our cycle. So like knowing your cycle is just, I think, really important and really helpful. I know we can't always like take time off and like and recluse, but sometimes we can. And giving yourself permission to do that is the most liberating, healing, and free thing you can do for yourself, for your body, for your family, and for your mental, emotional well-being. And
Yeah.
so, giving yourself that grace and, that emotional sensitivity and that stress tolerance starts to shift too, right? And so we can't handle things as much when we are in these certain phases of our cycle. And so being really graceful with yourself, it's like, oh yeah, maybe I'm snapping
Mhm.
at the kids because like my mom used to lock us out of the house when she was on her period. This is when you used to play
Nuh-uh.
outside. She used to literally lock us out of the house. It's so funny because the other day I was like, I was talking about the dogs and how like I'm glad I didn't have any kids because these dogs are so annoying. Like I can't like kids are like a lot more, right? You have to
Mhm.
like be with them. And she's like, no, no, kids are different. No, it's different than dogs. And I was like, okay. So I kind of sat with that. And then like a couple days later, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, this woman used to lock us outside of the house when she was on her cycle. Like she had, I think it's like PDMS or whatever, like the really bad
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
where
yeah.
really bad.
PMDD. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, and this is when you used to play outside, so it was like not one of those like, we couldn't come into the house, but it was, stay outside, like leave us alone, leave me alone, right? And
Oh,
so
that's so funny.
yeah, it is funny. And so I called my mom. I was like, "Do you remember they used to lock us out of the house?" She's like, "Yeah, I guess you're kind of right." Anyways, so that's a side tangent.
Oh, that's
Ah.
hilarious.
Yeah, looking back, a lot of things are different back in when we were growing up. I
Yeah.
was just going through all the different generations and like
Yeah.
about like our different generations and stuff, and we're so different, like
So different.
so different from the kids today, from like what we grew up with, and yeah, it's just interesting. But okay, so some phases may be more social and creative, like confidence,
Mhm.
right? Like
Mhm.
where are you? Like how are you feeling socially? How are you feeling, creative? Like are you in your creation? Are you, being spontaneous, right? Are you confident, right? All those are going to shift your perspectives. And so the same problem can feel completely different depending on the day. So when the thoughts and when the things get really loud, just taking some deep breaths. I think that's the biggest thing I come back to all the time. And you could
Yep.
share what you like to do, Lisa. I mean, instant shift, all of those practices in there are perfect, right? So it's like if I
Yeah.
know that I'm on my period, or I'm going to be starting it, right? Like I need to take up a notch on my practices, right? And so Instant
Mhm.
Shift, you gave us so many practices in there for
Mhm.
support, and so for so many different emotions, and I really loved having that as like
Yeah.
a toolbox to go to. So it's
Right.
like sometimes you get that decision fatigue. And
Mhm.
so I think having something like you created an Instant Shift is so cool because then you just go there and like you know where you're going to, and like you can play with something new, or you can just go back to something that you've been really enjoying. And I really love that about Instant Shift.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
I
what's your
even think
go-to thing? Uh-huh.
I even think though with that too, like from learning from your inner child program too, like even just sitting with the inner child, during
Mm,
those moments, because I
yes.
can think of like especially when you're menstruating, right? And you're like,
Hmm.
and we're just so used to as women when we're menstruating or whatever phase we're in that we just have to keep pushing harder and keep showing
Yeah.
up. So it's like, yeah, of course, listening to your own energy and having the tools and the breath and the different practices to release it somatically. But also, I think sitting with that part of you that's like, that's exhausted and that's like, I don't want to
Mm,
show up today and it's okay to rest, like telling that
yeah.
little girl, like, it's okay to sit here and like watch a movie
Mhm.
and like just
Yeah.
binge out for a little bit. Like I had to do that,
Yes.
not this last cycle, but the cycle before I was getting cramps and I was just like, I'm just gonna lay here for the rest of the night and watch like a rom-com movie
Mm,
because I just need to cry a little bit and I just need to sit here and like with a heating pad and feel into my feels and like
yeah.
and I don't allow myself to do that very often. So,
Mm,
it's like giving yourself that little gift of like, what do you actually need in this moment? And I think that's like something that I keep coming back to all the time. And that's one of the questions I think that we learned from one of our beginning mentors, like, what does your body actually need? And of course, as women, of course, knowing your cycle is really important because again, if you have the flexibility, if you have the ability to shift your schedule or to know when it's coming, like that is ideal. But again, of course, life happens and sometimes you don't have control with that. So find practices that do work for you. So maybe you do
mm,
meditate, maybe you do take deep breaths, maybe you do one of the practices an instant shift, like
mm,
you do one of these practices or you tap into more fun, you tap into being silly like a kid.
mm.
Like life is just we just make it so serious all the time sometimes. And
Right.
especially going into these negative cycles, like it's got to be one way or the highway, like, and it doesn't have to be like that. Like, you
Mm,
get to live. And the other thing that I love about astrology too is that, again, if you learn astrology and if you learn your chart and you learn where your rising and your moon is, it really helps you give you a guide as well of where your
mm,
emotions are. And I'm in this program right now that I'm really like kind of tapping into more of like understanding what's happening in the current world and like how it
mm.
relates to my chart because things are coming up and I'm like, oh, that's why that
Yeah. I mean,
little
I know you've
trigger
been telling
happened.
me.
Yeah. Like yesterday, I had something happen and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense why there's a
Yeah.
square and there's some tension going on. Got it. Okay, let
Mm,
me just get through these next couple of days.
there you go.
Right now we have the moon in Scorpio is just transiting to Sagittarius. So it's like the bigger, the bold, the big picture, like could be a little fiery, could be a little
Hmm.
bold and like, the little bit of hard truth. So there's certain things that you can also read into if your menstrual cycle or if you are a male that listens to us, like obviously you
Hmm.
don't have a menstrual cycle, but
Yeah.
you could definitely listen to the moon or well,
Mm.
sorry, not listen to the moon, but like track the moon, and
Right.
track what is going on
Oh,
cosmically, like
yeah.
regardless, woman or man, but that is also a great hack and a great tool to just understand what you're going through. And sometimes if you have somebody else to talk through it and being like, oh, okay, I'm not just being crazy. It's
Right.
just, you're feeling this too. Got it. Great.
I think too, like something that's been so helpful is like really having my husband understand my cycle, and it has not been an
Yeah.
easy task. Um,
No,
I
right.
think it's a lot for guys to take in. I think, at least in my experience, and so
Yeah.
sometimes I have to be like, let me remind you that like my patience is really short. It is not personal. I love you, but like also
Yeah.
like I don't have the capacity to be as loving and patient and kind, and like the little things
Mhm.
are annoying me, and it's not your fault, but like also like having them understand that has been such a game changer.
Yeah.
And also because it is nice to have a little bit of that sweeter side of
Yeah.
our partners when we are
Yeah.
feeling that, and that's been so helpful.
Yeah. I think that comes down to too, at the end of the day, no matter what tool you do, astrology, menstrual, like whatever you're doing, it's really understanding the compassion piece for everybody.
Love this.
Like
Yeah.
obviously, like with women, we have these cycles and we don't have a choice. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like as a partner, or hopefully your partner will understand it and actually make a little bit of effort to understand it and
Mm-hmm.
show up in different ways for you, because that's amazing. And it makes life a little bit easier sometimes, when you're going through it. And, but also like recognizing that like you're feeling a certain way. So even you just sharing with your partner and being like, this isn't about you, but I'm just really irritable today. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, just don't talk to me, or like just leave me alone for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, it's like one of those things where just like learning your patterns and learning this compassion and grace piece, whether you're the person that's being affected or you're the person that, is giving it or holding it, whatever, like it really does make a huge difference when you're able to come to each other, because relationships are inevitable, like they're everywhere. And like whether it's your partner, your kids, your coworkers,
Yeah.
parents, whatever, like having compassion and grace for whatever they're going through, because a lot of times you don't know what they're going through unless, you are open about it.
Yeah.
But we just take it on personally all the time.
Mm.
And I think it's having that compassionate piece. And then, like we said in the last episode with the red flags and green flags, like having those uncomfortable conversations and being vulnerable and honest with the other person really opens up more connection for you. So
Mm-hmm.
again, compassion and grace brings more connection to a relationship, and it makes life better because you're able to go deeper, in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this next part, we want to get into about how, when things happen, all these scenarios, whether you're annoyed, whether you're agitated, whether someone said no, whether you don't get the promotion, X, Y, and Z, whatever is happening in your life currently, instead of just dismissing it and saying, like, everything's fine, I'm great. And trust me, I have had this line my whole life. I am fine. How often when you ask somebody, how are you doing? Or vice versa, and you're like, I'm fine, I'm great. And
Good.
that's not true. Far
Mm-hmm.
from the truth, right? And sometimes you can go, under the surface with people, depending on who it is, and if you have time. Or, you kind of have to just be like, yep, I'm great. Everything's great. Life is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But how many times do you lie to yourself that everything is fine?
Mm.
Right? And when you really want to say, well, like this happened today and this happened yesterday, and I'm just going through it, you know? And sometimes it's okay to pretend that
Mm.
everything is not fine. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to cry. It is okay to actually feel what's going
Mm.
on. And when you get to the emotion that you're feeling, so, say for example, someone says, how are you doing? And you're like, eh, okay, what's going on there? Why are you just And then get curious, get super
Mm-hmm.
curious, get really honest with yourself. Like, I am feeling, I just feel like crap today, And I'm just feeling really angry because I feel like a failure today. I feel like nothing's going right, and I don't know when it's going to happen for me, when things are going to
Mm-hmm.
work out in my favor. I keep thinking it and it's just not happening. And then you get really curious and you keep asking yourself questions to get to that root part. Because when you do that and when you listen to the emotions, when you feel and you get curious, you start to understand what the core emotion that you're feeling is. And then you get to work through that emotion, work through that pattern because it's showing up in different areas of your life.
Mm.
That's the unsexy part of healing, is that this pattern will keep showing up until you work through it. And
Mm.
sometimes it's better for you to look at it in the moment, instead of let it fester, instead of let it like become resentment or guilt or shame, because that's when it's like you're shaking up a soda bottle and it's just going to explode eventually. And that little bit of a trigger just pops the bottle off.
Mm.
So instead of being like, eh, work just sucks right now. I'm so busy and I don't feel appreciated. I'm not getting this raise like I thought I was, X, Y, and Z. How can you change the angle? How can you change the perspective on that? And if you're feeling that way for a long time, this might be a little harder and you might have to work through it every single day. But instead of just being like, I'm fine, everything's great, I'm just like gonna gratitude the shit out of my job right now because that's what I see everywhere, that I just need to be grateful for it. Instead, you can just say, you know what, I'm beginning to look at my job as, you know, being grateful for it. I'm beginning to enjoy my job. I'm
Mm,
beginning to, or I'm shifting the way I look at my job because you know what? It's a really great opportunity because X, Y, and Z. And you just start to soften the way you look at it and you start to have a little bit of gratitude for it. So every time it gets a little bit bigger. And when you start to actually look at, what story and what feeling is actually underneath this, also ask yourself, like, what could this be showing me? What is this pattern? Maybe it is a default pattern of negativity that you have and like nothing worked out for me. Maybe it is a little victim. Maybe it is a little like, or maybe you're just feeling guilt, for a certain thing. Maybe you're going to a job and you work so hard, but you keep spending all your money and you're like, when am I going to break this cycle?
mm,
And so many things could be true and so many different patterns. And, would love to hear from you specifically, like, the listener, that what is going on for you so we can help you break these patterns. This is why we created this. So start to work on some reframes. So instead of saying this isn't working and my life sucks, instead of saying that, where it's just like the like end goal, the end feeling, start to sort of soften it a little bit. So it isn't working the way I expected. So what could be true for this, right? And instead of saying like I'm behind and I'm a failure and all these things, and it's like, okay, well, according to whose timeline? Instead of saying everything's wrong, life sucks, X, Y, and Z, start to zoom out and just say, instead, a few things aren't going how I wanted.
mm.
So sometimes the reframe isn't just everything happens for a reason and everything's happening for me, which I literally have tattooed on my arm to remind myself every day. Sometimes it's not, I'm not going right for that phrase. I'm not going right for that phrase, because it's sometimes we just don't know what it means yet. And I have an arrow on my arm with the phrase in perfect timing because everything does happen for you in perfect timing and for a reason. I do truly believe that, but I have the arrow there because whatever's happening that's pulling you back, just like an arrow, it's always going to
Mm,
shoot you forward. You
mhm,
might be taking 10
mhm,
steps back right now,
mhm.
but you're going to go forward eventually. It's like when you get to the end of the bottom of the hill, like you got to go up somehow. When you hit the bottom, you're going to go up somehow. So allow yourself to just shift a little bit, to allow yourself to think a little bit differently. And that will create more momentum for you. And that will create a little bit more positivity for you, not toxic positivity,
Mhm.
like some of us have been taught.
That's so good. So I actually kind of want to go over this framework that I learned in a coaching certification by
Mhm.
Christina Joy. Shout out to her. It's called Everything But Asana Training, and it's something that I use personally with
Ooh,
myself and my clients.
yeah.
And it's exactly what Lisa was just talking to, right? So like the 3D is that contrast and it's that distortion, right? It's that contradiction. It's like, nothing's working for me. Like bad things happen in three. Of course, this is happening. Of course, I didn't get this. Everything's going wrong, right? That's that really dense, like 3D, reality. Like I am this story. I am my
Mhm.
wounds. It's a rigid identity pattern. So it's like grasping to old ways, right? It's chasing that outcome, needing that external validation, right? Avoiding discomfort and resisting growth. Those are all like the 3D survival mode, the control and like the loops that we go in and then that anxiety, right? So that's all like the 3D. And so what Lisa was talking about is that 4D, right? That awakening awakening, that clarity. Okay, it isn't working out the way I expected. A few things aren't going my way, right? You're starting to shift your perspective into that 4D self-study, right? So we're coming into like the correct scene, right? Recognizing patterns, and we're starting to awaken to the truth. And so when we start shifting that, right? Like the desire as our guidance, like, okay, I desire for things to work out in my favor, right?
Mhm.
I desire for me to get the job. And maybe this was I was just talking to a client about this. She was interview for a job and she was feeling like why didn't they pick me, and I was a perfect
Mhm.
person. And I guess she even talked to the people and they were like, no, you were a great fit, but this person had more experience, right? And so it's
Mm.
like, oh, that one little thing, right? And then what I
Yeah.
reminded her is sometimes rejection is protection, right? And
Yeah.
so like, right, in that 4D, that self-study, you're like, okay, rejection is protection. That means that there's something better out there for me, right? And so we're really coming into this like surrender of life and like trusting it. And so once we come into the 4D, then we can come into that 5D perspective, which is your soul's perspective. It's your unity, your liberation. It's that awareness. It's seeing through the illusion of separation. And that's not an easy task to go from the 3D reality to the 4D to the 5D. And I even find myself in that too. Like earlier, I was talking about, yesterday when I woke up, I was in the 3D, right? And
Yeah.
so I noticed that I was in the 3D and then I started shifting into the 4D and I was like, I'm not having a bad day today. Like me and my husband have a day date planned together.
Yeah.
We're gonna go, we're gonna have breakfast. It's gonna be amazing. Like I'm not gonna worry about it. And like, I decided to get into that 4D perspective, which then brought me into my soul perspective. And we had like such an amazing day together, right?
Aw.
And so, yeah, it was really nice. And, so it's really dissolving the ego, right? Ego and like coming
Yes.
into that soul unity, right? Like when we're in, like not in our human form, right? We're in our
Yeah.
soul's perspective and we're in our soul, right? We're not in this human plane. Like we are in unity. Yeah,
Yeah.
unity. We're in unity. We're in love, right? We're in
Mhm.
union. That was the word I was looking for. Like we're in union. And so when we can get more glimpses of that is like when we can start like manifesting what it is that we do want. And so I think that's just a really good way for us to start thinking, like really coming into that 3D, 4D, and that 5D perspective. And sometimes, we want to control versus trust, right? And
Mhm.
so that would be like the 3D perspective is trying to force the outcomes. Like,
Yeah.
who's guilty? All of us can raise our hand where we're just like, okay, so if she does that and then he does that and then she says that and then we get there at that time and then da
Yep.
da da da, oh, like we have it all figured out, right?
Yeah.
So here, us silly little humans, like, I'm just going to control all of the narratives and like
Yeah.
everything's going to work out perfectly, then I will be safe and then everything will work out the way that it's supposed to. But
Yeah.
like what happens when we do that is like we're trying to control the whole outcome and we're leaving no space for the universe to bring in way more magical things than we could even imagine, right? Like we're not leaving any space for any kind of co-creation or magic and miracles. And so, when we are trying to force the outcomes, we're just keeping ourselves in that 3D perspective. So, like, really letting go and being like, okay, I would love for it to go this way. And also, I'm trusting that it's going to go the way that it's supposed to. And, another thing that comes along with this is like surrendering to what is happening, which I think is one of the most challenging things we can do as
Mm.
humans, because we are people that love to know. We are humans that love to know what's going to happen. How is it going to happen? All the things like we would like to
Mhm.
have that safety, right? And so the surrender doesn't mean giving up. Like we're not just surrendering. Okay, I'm just going to lay back and I'm not going to do anything, right? And we just lay down and eat cherries at our bed all day long and like everything's going to work out for us, right? Surrender doesn't mean giving up. Surrender just
Yeah.
means I am surrendering the outcome. I am not going to have to control everything. I'm surrendering, even if it's like not what I think is what I want to happen, or if it's a really like hard, sometimes we surrender and then it ends up being like a really hard lesson that we need to learn, and that's okay
Yeah.
too. But when we surrender and we let go, we let God, and we're not like trying to control everything, right? And so sometimes we need to pause before we respond. So remember, this whole episode is about perspective. What is your perspective? Where are you at? Do I need to pause before I respond like I did yesterday while he was eating the yogurt? I like paused. I noticed the 3D, the old Desi. Oh yeah, I would have like probably snapped it. No, I not probably. I would have. The unhealed inner child that was still very angry. All those little things, I would pop off. I would be like yelling and like I would be mean. I was mean, really mean, honestly. Where did I get it from? Let's see. My mom used to lock me out of the house. Sorry, mom. Um, sorry, no, not sorry. Love you. We don't blame our parents, right? We
Yeah.
they are our biggest teachers. And so anyways, it's like, okay, so where do you need to pause and like maybe you need to sleep on it and get a good night's sleep before you have the conversation with your husband because you're
Yeah.
really annoyed, right?
Cool off a
Or with your
little.
best friend or with whatever it is. And maybe you just need to move your body and just like shake it the hell out of the
Yes.
body, right?
Yes.
Maybe you need to go put your feet on the ground outside, like get out of the house, right? Go
Mm,
regulate,
yeah.
check where you are in your cycle. So like instead of trying to control, we're letting go and then from there decide what you want to do, right? So it's actively like choosing what is my perspective over
Mm-hmm.
and over again. What do I
Mm-hmm.
want my perspective today? Well, I know I want my perspective to always be in like the 5D soul perspective. That'd be amazing. My
Yeah.
freaking coach is so good at this. This is why she's my coach. Like the way that she's able to spin what seemingly is like a bad situation into good, it just
Yeah.
freaking amazes me.
Yeah.
And, it's like, wow, there is so many different perspectives and ways that we could look at situations for our highest good. And even the hard stuff is like, oh, wow, there is something that we can take out of it
Mm-hmm.
that's good.
Yeah. I feel that too. I feel like I've always been one that is, I used to be. I mean, I still am for the most part. Of course, I get in my own head sometimes, but like I used to always be the optimistic, bubbly person, for my friends. Like I would have been like, it's fine, everything's great. And like, but not in the way of like, dismissing it like I used
Hmm.
to, which I definitely have done that
Oh,
too.
okay.
But
Uh-huh.
like more of like, it all is happening for a reason. And like I was totally like
Mm.
the spiritual person of being like, it's fine, it's gonna be great, and da da da, like whatever, like, screw that person and whatever, like it's gonna be fine. And I've been like playing with that more lately too, of like I'm really good at this perspective shifts for sure.
Mm.
And I
Hmm.
think also we can share quickly our what our other method is that we learned in our coaching, Bitfar,
Oh, yeah.
because that is such a really great tool to remind you that you are literally creating your own reality by these thoughts
Mm.
and by these expectations and these control and whatever. So we learned this framework called Bitfar for short, but it's the letters BTFAR, and B is beliefs, T is thoughts, F is why am I going blank?
Beliefs, thoughts, feelings,
Feelings,
action,
feelings,
results. Yeah.
action, and results. Yes. So it is B. So your results, right? We look at our outcomes and we look at our life on the daily and we're like, well, I don't have enough money. I don't have this thing and my body sucks and da da da. Well, you have to kind of reverse engineer it, like, right? So
Mm.
are the actions that you've been taking in order to get to that result, right? And then it's like, what were you feeling in order to do those actions? What were you actually thinking? What were the thoughts? And then what were those beliefs? So your beliefs, whatever you believe, is true. So like when you say you can, you can. When you say you can't, you can't. That is the truth.
Hmm.
That is period. So when you say I can't lose the weight, I can't make extra money, I can't do this, I'm never gonna find love, X, Y, and Z, whatever that is, your belief and and I heard this recently is a belief is just a thought you think over and over and over and over and over again. That it
Hmm.
literally solidifies into the body because your
Yep.
body thinks it's true. So when you think these things, they become beliefs. And when you are in that energy of that belief and that thought, because you're starting to with the stories, because your mind is looking for the examples and the proof. So when you're thinking that, your mind is looking for, oh yeah, that's true. You can't do that. And you're injured now. And
Hmm.
now you can't do that. And
Confirmation.
confirmation. It definitely
Mm.
comes through because of these thoughts and beliefs.
Mm.
So then when you think this, you start to feel this way. The
Mm.
emotion solidifies and confirms that belief and that thought. Then that feeling, because our feelings drive our actions.
Yep.
So that feeling is going to drive our next action. So are
Yep.
you going to just stay stuck? You're going to do nothing. You're going to feel uninspired. You're going to feel like you're never creative and you can't do things. All those things, of course, is going to equal the result
Right.
not being what you want. So, where are the results that in your life? What are the outcomes? What is the thing that in your life that you feel like is the worst area of your life right now? And I did this in instant shift where you take all the areas of your life and you rate it from like a 1 to 10 and you see where you're at and see what the lowest score is and or what is that area that you want to focus on to change and notice what you're feeling around that. Do you feel guilty? Do you feel shame? Do you feel like you suck? Do you feel like
Mm,
nothing's working? And then understand where that is coming from. What is that thought? What is that belief? And you want to gently shift it. You want to release the control. You want to give yourself compassion and grace and go through this episode with us, and we can give you guys a couple of like a question real quick as well to help you reflect. So, with this area of life, maybe you already thought of one. What am I trying to control right now with this area of life or with this intention or manifestation that you're trying to call in? What are
mhm,
you trying to control about it right now? Maybe you're trying to do every single thing to line up exactly perfect. Or maybe you think you need to have the whole plan or the whole staircase, in
mhm,
order to make the first move.
mm,
Sometimes we do that and we stop ourselves as well.
yeah,
And instead of that, what else could be true about this? Maybe
yeah.
you just shift it gently and then allow yourself to, instead of just going right to the action piece, sometimes that's what we do and we love to do that. Instead, shift the energy and say, how would I respond if I trust in myself and this part of my life could be easy,
Mm,
right? Like, what would you do? Right?
yeah.
And go from that energy. And then you will notice a difference when you come from that energy instead.
Yeah, so good. I love the Bitflower framework. It's something that I use with my clients. I know we've used it in our
Hmm.
masterminds, and I use it
Yep.
in Inner Child Haven for one of the eras where we're like
Yeah.
really, those beliefs are coming on really strong. And so I help them rewrite those beliefs.
Yes.
And
So
it's
good.
a little challenging because sometimes it's hard to figure out what is that new belief, right? So if we
Hmm.
understand like our beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions, then we can rewire them by rewriting our beliefs, thoughts, feelings. Yeah. Beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions, results, right?
Results.
And so
Yeah.
when we start writing it down, we start putting pen to paper, we start rewiring those neural networks in our brain. And it's like, obviously, if it was like a one and done thing, we'd all be like millionaires and we'd all have like
Yeah.
mansions because we'd have all these beliefs, right? But there's a lot to untangle there. But yeah, I love this conversation. I love this what we brought today because I really feel it's so resonant with so many of us of like so easy to get pulled into that 3D reality,
Yeah.
so easy to get pulled into the negativity. It's so easy to see the perspective for the worst case scenario. And so this is the muscle, right? That I was just having a
Hmm.
conversation with another
Hmm.
client. Like we have to build our muscles. Like it's not a
Yeah.
one and done thing. Like we have to, like just like we go to the gym, we're not lifting 30-pound
Yes.
dumbbells right
Yes.
away, right? We're starting out
Yes.
with the fives, we're starting out with the tens. Like it
Yes.
takes time, it takes repetition. And yeah, that's kind of what it all really comes down to.
Yeah.
Because I know we share so much on this podcast. Like we give you guys a lot. We
Hmm.
like so much information, right? Which is great. Information is great and you guys need it, but then implementation is so
Yeah.
important too, and that embodiment. And like me and Lisa both do this for a living as coaches. We help women thrive. We help them do exactly what we've been teaching you guys. Like
Hmm.
we are in our own practices, we're doing it and we're doing it for our clients. And if you guys ever want to go deeper, like information is great, but application is so important. Please find
Yes.
us on our Instagrams, reach out
Yep.
to us. I know, support people one-on-one. We have group coaching
Mhm.
containers.
Mhm.
We have so many different ways to support you. So please reach out to us if you feel like you want to go deeper on some of these that we've been talking about.
Yes. Yeah, this is a topic that we can go on and there's so many different examples and I'm sure you've thought of something already. So definitely write it down, maybe go back through the episode and go through some of the questions because that will allow you to start to shift it and
Hmm.
recognize the pattern that you can stop. You can stop the pattern.
Mm.
And again, if you want more support, reach out to us because
Yeah.
we love this stuff.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we have plenty of tools in our toolbox to share with you as well. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. Comment, come back to our Instagram, let us know, especially when we post. When this episode comes out, there's always going to be a post so you can comment on there and share what you felt or message us. We would
Mm.
love to hear from you.
Yay. Thank you guys. We'll see you on the next
See
episode.
you next time. Bye.
Bye.